Well, welcome everyone to our mini series, if you will, of Tulsa Chautauqua that we're producing entitled Countdown to Chautauqua. We are getting excited about June 2021 when we will hopefully be through this pandemic that we find ourselves in right now. But we want to remind you that Tulsa Chautauqua is alive and well. We're working really hard, making preparations to get together in June of 21 and hopefully in person. But if not, we are definitely going to be with you all virtually. So the next few months, we're going to be sharing a series of videos on our YouTube and Facebook platforms to inform you a little bit about the history of Chautauqua, to let you know about the scholars that we have coming this year and some of the great research that they've been doing. And so for those of you who don't know me, I'm Ken Busby. I'm a very proud member of the board of Tulsa Chautauqua. I've been involved with Tulsa Chautauqua a long time, since I was director of the Arts and Humanities Council. And it's just one of those great programs that we do in Tulsa and across the state of Oklahoma. And joining me today is Ron Nick, another longtime Tulsa Chautauqua board member, a historian on the origins of Chautauqua. And, Ron, it's really good to see you and good to have you with us today.
Well, it's good to see you too, Ken. You're looking great.
Oh, thanks, man. You too. Picked a fun time for us, one of our Chautauqua tent from a couple years ago, just as a little backdrop to make me feel better about that we will get back to some sort of next normal, and we will be able to have great scholars and great conversations again. So today, I want to continue on our conversation. You helped us in our first time together, going back to 1874 and all of the very origins about being for Sunday school training, kinds of things, and how that has led to sort of where we are today. And so I thought we'd pick it up a little more to the present. We'll jump up to the 1890s now. And I love the term that I've read, calling daughter Chautauquas, and how this idea of circuits were formed for Chautauqua. So I thought you might talk a little bit about the traveling nature of Chautauquas and sort of the kinds of topics that they were covering.
Sure. The daughter Chautauquas actually were similar to what we're doing today as far as Chautauqua. In other words, they were set up in a town. They might be held annually or whatever, not quite as organized as we are. But as they moved along, they brought in speakers of the day. And especially when the traveling Chautauquas got going, the daughter Chautauquas were somewhat parochial in their own little town, but the traveling Chautauquas grew out of the Lyceum circuit, which was very prevalent in the late 1800s around the country. And there were several of these traveling Chautauquas. Probably the best known was the Red Path Chautauqua, which would go from city to city. They would have not only scholars who would be speaking, they would have singers, they would have jugglers, they would all sorts of entertainment. It became the thing that the people in the town would look forward to every summer. They would save and save and save so they could go to Chautauqua. I read that admissions were typically something like a nickel for a day, or it might be $1.25 to cover the entire family for a week or 10 days. And it was kind of an interesting setup in that the Chautauqua would come to town. They would pitch a huge tent. They'd have their first day where they might have some lectures during the day, some entertainment in the evening, another lecturer, and they'd close down. And those people that had performed on Monday would get on the late train and go to the next city where there was another group that was already setting up the tent. Then the people from the second night or second day would perform. When their performance was over, they would get onto the train late at night and they would go on. It was just kind of a circuit, really, as the way they traveled. And it's just amazing how that they were able to do it. There was actually one in Tulsa from 1901 to 1909. And this was held, as I had been able to find it, first in Elgin, downtown.
Okay.
Where would pitch the tent.
So that'd be the Blue Dome District, yeah.
The Blue Dome District. And probably the most noted, William Jennings Bryant spoke here, probably the most famous orator of his time.
Sure.
And that ended in 1909, and that the promoter, a guy by the name of Vaughter, was unable to sell enough advance tickets for 1910.
Hmm.
And so 1909 was where it kind of ended.
Hmm.
But of course, they kept going and kept going in other cities around the country up until about the late 1920s. And most of the people, historians that know a lot more than I, kind of agree that the Model T,
Hmm.
uh, the coming of talking pictures,
Yeah.
those were kind of rang the death knell for the traveling Chautauquas.
Hmm.
And they started dying out. Some of them survived into the early 30s, but after that, they were pretty much gone. They
Yeah.
just disappeared. Of course, the Chautauqua Institution was carrying on, although the 30s were a rough time for them also. It's a lot of people in the United States suffering through the Depression.
Sure.
But it kind of went along there until 1976. Two professors at the University of South Dakota, Dr. Albers and a guy by the name of Clay Jenkinson, who's still performing today as a Chautauqua scholar,
Hmm.
formed the Great Plains Chautauqua.
Right.
The Great Plains Chautauqua, of course, started in the Dakotas, came down into Iowa, Nebraska, Kansas, Missouri, and actually in 1991, Great Plains first came to Tulsa. Uh, I can't tell you who the scholars were at that time. I've looked and looked trying to find people to give me the full list. I know that
Mhm.
Suzanne King was one of that
Right.
group. I think Ted Catchell was either in the first year or the second year, and
Sure.
but it kind of took off from there. So this, I guess, it's 2021 will be our 30th year.
That's right. Gosh, that doesn't seem possible, does it?
It really
Wow.
doesn't. Tulsa Chautauqua is the oldest continuing not traveling Chautauqua, but existing Chautauqua. There are about 18 other Chautauquas like we have here in Tulsa in
Hmm.
10 different states. Some states have more than one. Ohio has two, Colorado has three different Chautauquas.
Huh.
Uh, there are three new groups that I've been kind of helping get started. One in Athens, Georgia, one in South Central Ohio, another one in New Hampshire. So it's still a continuing thing. When a couple of years ago, when I really got into researching Chautauqua, I've managed to contact uh, all of the other Chautauquas around the country. And it's a going thing. They're all, of course, faced with the same problems we have been this year. But,
Sure.
there's a lot going on and we just need to keep continuing it.
So, what do you think is driving this interest in creating new Chautauquas right now?
I think that the people are looking inward a little more, maybe looking more at the history.
Hmm.
The state of where we are these days, I think, worries a lot of us. And
Hmm.
I think that people are kind of, they're looking for entertainment, but they also want to learn something while they're at it. And to
Right.
me, that's the whole part of Chautauqua. We have 5 characters every year. The character that I always look forward to the most is the one I've never heard of.
Yes. Yes.
I've heard that from a lot of other people, and that's so true. That's what to me really makes Chautauqua.
Oh, I think so. I've always said that Chautauqua is the best way to learn history. It's just amazing hearing a scholar put things in perspective, having done all this research, and just listening to someone orate, if you will, and
Right.
just share with you, their perspective, their views, and so forth, and then to be able to add the scholar in that time period, and then I'm sorry, the character, and then the scholar today, when they come out of character, you just really have a very comprehensive knowledge that comes from listening and hearing and seeing these programs.
That's true. Teddy Roosevelt once called Chautauqua the most American thing in America, and I think that just says it all right there.
Hmm. Hmm.
And you talk about the scholars and the research that they do. I'm now in contact with about 150 scholars across the country that do close to 400 different characters. And the things that they go through, the research and
Hmm.
the costuming and
Oh,
putting together the workshops, it's just an amazing thing for them to do. I wouldn't have the patience to do it myself, I know.
no, nor I.
It's so
Uh,
much fun watching the people that have that kind of patience.
uh-huh. No, exactly. I think about yeah, the time and effort and so forth that goes into it, and I think for those who really enjoy Chautauqua, I think they truly value what the scholars are doing and the effort that they put into it. And I think it's amazing too, and maybe you touched on this already, the fact that for us, Tulsa Chautauqua is the largest living history program in the state. That
Right.
we're providing that kind of audience, and to be in a city our size, with almost 1 million people, to keep this, as you say, almost will be our 30th anniversary next year, is remarkable, because normally you see Chautauquas in much smaller communities
So true.
because there is so much other entertainment and other things to do. So I think that shows a lot of integrity, I guess, for our community, and so forth, and a value placed on education.
I think the word value that you used is the most important thing.
Yeah,
People get something out of coming to Chautauqua. I know I have, everyone I've ever talked to. I've
absolutely. Yeah,
everyone who leaves a Chautauqua tent always says thank you on the way out,
yeah,
which I find
yeah.
amazing, especially in
It,
today's edit.
it really is. Yeah, yeah. Um, so is there anything else that we should touch on today, Ron? I don't want to.
No, I think, we've covered an awful lot here in a couple of interviews. I know we've got some others, and you're going to be doing some other interviews with some people here in Tulsa, and then maybe on with the scholars a little later on in the year. I just encourage people to keep Chautauqua in mind. Uh, we have a slogan now that without you, there is no Chautauqua. You can't spell Chautauqua without you.
I
So
love that, Ron. You came up with that and shared that with us, and it's so true. It's so true, because this is also a program that we provide free to the public, so that everyone can come and just have this experience, and the workshops that we offer, and our great partnership with the Tulsa Historical Society. It just all works to provide a really great educational, learning, and fun opportunity. So thanks so much for sharing your time with us today.
no
Uh, it,
problem.
it's great to see you. And as we wrap up our time, everyone, you will remember the Bucket Brigade. I know you remember the Bucket Brigade. This is where we pass the bucket each night under the Chautauqua tent for donations that you would like to make. Since we are virtual at this time, but we still have expenses, and we're still putting things together, we'd love to pass the bucket virtually and ask that you make a tax-deductible contribution to support Tulsa Chautauqua. You can make checks payable to Tulsa Chautauqua Inc. And mail them to Post Office Box 52344, Tulsa, Oklahoma 74152. That, once again, Post Office Box 52344, Tulsa, Oklahoma 74152. And we'd also like to hear from you. Any comments or questions that you have based on the interviews that we have today, and the rest of the series to come with Countdown to Chautauqua. Ron is helping us with that too. So thank you, Ron, for doing that. You may send your emails to, and I'll spell it for you, chqron94@gmail.com. That's chqron94@gmail.com. And we'll share those questions and answers on our YouTube platform, Facebook platform, and so forth. So Ron, again, great to see you. Thanks for your time today. And I'll say to everyone, stay safe, wear your mask, socially distance, wash your hands frequently. We will get through this together, and we will see you very soon back here on some of our videos, and certainly in June of 2021, virtually or in person, we will see you.
Thank you, kid.
All
Have a
right.
great day.
There now. You